With our guy Glen West right now, senior writer over at Go 24/7. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, hon. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. My baseball team's in big trouble, but other than that, I'm doing okay. Let's just get out and talk offensive line. If everybody's healthy, who's your right tackle?
I probably will stick with Weston Davis as my projected right tackle. I mean, that's just what I think LSU is going to do. I think, for a lot of people who are wanting to see the freshman Carius Curne play, I think left guard is probably a little bit more of a likely proposition that he plays left guard than right tackle this weekend, unless something happens with Davis and he has to go out of the game or something. But I would say Weston Davis is probably going to be the right tackle this weekend.
We obviously saw Curne working a lot at left guard and at left tackle in the spring and starting in the fall. You've got an injury there with Mabenga. You've got Chester. You've got Cohen Eccles. Do you think Curne is an actual option there at left guard?
I do. I mean, there was an opportunity for them to go back to Chester in the second half in the Ole Miss game 2 weeks ago now, and Brian Kelly talked about this yesterday that they really liked the reps that Carius Curne was giving them at right tackle, and so why wouldn't the same be true to left guard, for example? I mean, I know Chester has some experience and has the games under his belt, but I think if LSU truly wants to kind of mix things up, and kind of see what they have in this freshman, they should throw him out there and see what he can give them at any spot that's available. And so I think there's a very realistic chance that Curne could be your left guard this weekend. I think Mubanga with a high ankle sprain, it'd probably be a little bit, it's probably not likely that he plays this weekend on just 2 weeks away from that, 2 weeks removed from that injury. But Chester and Eccles and certainly Curne, I think, are all going to be in that mix there at left guard for this weekend.
I've kind of got a sequenced question here, so I'll start. This will probably be a very short answer. Do you feel like LSU's offensive line has been bad in the run game early on?
Yes.
Do you think they're going to continue to be bad for the rest of the season?
Probably.
Okay, so what does that mean then if that's the case?
I think you have to work for incremental improvement. I don't think we're going to see a rushing offense go from 15th to second in the over the next 7 weeks. But if you can find ways to make this thing a little bit more efficient in the run game, find ways to make it. I've been using the word timely. If you can find timely runs of 6, 7, 8 yards. Pretty on a consistent basis, I think that's a win. As long as they're not runs where you're getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage or losing a yard or two and just getting yourself behind the chains, as long as they're moving forward as a run game, then I think that's a win for LSU. I'm not asking for explosive runs. I'm not asking for huge holes for these running backs. It would be nice to see because I do think there are some talented backs, and look, I think it's a two-way street too. The running backs got to be able to see those holes and hit them hard and make guys miss and things of that nature. But it really does start at the offensive line for me in the run game, and just what kind of incremental improvement can that group make over the next 7 weeks? I don't know. But if you could just start by being a little bit more devoted to the run game, if we see LSU run the ball 32, 33 times on Saturday against South Carolina, I think there will be some good runs there in that number.
As far you said, you don't expect the offensive line to get significantly better. Do you expect Garrett Nussmeier to get significantly better?
I sure hope so, because I do think that the season really rides on whether or not he can get to a version of himself that we've seen in the past, which is just a guy that can sling the ball down the field. I mean, I think we've seen a player in last year that was capable of doing that, and he has a much stronger arm than I think we've seen in certain spots of this season. They got to start hitting the vertical deep threat balls, and I think that's been the area of focus for them the last 2 weeks. And but it's a believe it when we see it kind of deal for me right now, because I thought there was some real headway being made after the Southeastern game. I thought he looked good. I thought the passes came out of his hand pretty sharp in that game, and then in the Ole Miss game, he just missed a lot of the balls that I think he probably should have been completing. And whether that's due to his injury or not, they need him to be a much better version of himself than what he's been these first 5 weeks for this offense to really improve and to give this team a chance to make that playoff push here over the next 7 weeks.
All right, let's talk about South Carolina. LaNorris Sellers is obviously the headliner for that team offensively. He ran all over LSU when healthy last year before going out of the game. Does he pose a significant threat to this LSU defense?
I think he does. I mean, he's pretty much their entire offense. I mean, I've gone back and looked, and like they don't have much of a pulse in the run game outside of what he can do. And through the air, he's got a couple of receivers. Nick Harbor is a guy that can be a vertical threat for them, but they haven't really attacked the downfield portion of the passing game all that often this year with South Carolina. But he's very capable, and he's obviously got that dual threat ability there. I think there's probably going to be a little bit of a chip on this defense's shoulder for LSU from a lot of the returning players last year that watched him run really all over them in the first half of that game against South Carolina last year. But if you're able to take one or two of those things away, if you're able to limit him in the run and make sure that he's not extending plays to open receivers and open players downfield, then I think that's a win for this defense, and they should be able to get off the field pretty consistently. But it really does start and end with Sellers and just how much pressure they're going to be able to apply. This offensive line for South Carolina has really struggled to keep Sellers upright. I mean, he only has 98 rushing yards on the season, and that's because he's got 130 yards in sack yards. So if you're able to get pressure with guys like Jack Piver, Harold Perkins, Patrick Payton, the Weeks brothers, I think LSU should be in pretty good shape defensively this weekend.
It hasn't mattered who the quarterback's been the last 3 years. South Carolina's given up a lot of sacks. Rattler took a lot of sacks. Sellers took a lot of sacks last year. And they've given up a lot of sacks this year, as you mentioned. So LSU's pass rush from a sack number standpoint hasn't been awesome. Do you trust them to be disruptive this Saturday?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe they haven't gotten home on a lot of the plays, but they've been able to get pressure. And I think sometimes that's almost as important as, maybe not making the play. So if they're able to consistently apply pressure from all angles, contain him, keep him in the pocket, keep him from scrambling. That's the thing that Trinidad Chambliss did so well for Ole Miss a couple weeks ago was LSU did a pretty good job of applying some pressure on him, but he was able to escape and make plays with his legs, especially on third down. They've got to be able to eliminate that this weekend and not allow South Carolina to have these big drive continuing third down conversions with Sellers in his feet.
And last one, pretty broad question here. How big is the game Saturday night for LSU?
I think it's pretty big. You have to set a tone in October. I mean, I think LSU has to go 3-0 in October to really give themselves a realistic chance of running through the conference and being able to finish as a 2-loss conference team. And you've got to be able to set some kind of tone this weekend, I think, with your offense. I think this is you're going to have the home crowd behind you. I think you can be a little bit aggressive on South Carolina here. This is not a defense that's going to or that shouldn't be able to overwhelm your offense if you've made some strides like they think that they have. But it all starts to me with the quarterback. It all starts to me with LSU being able to get a little bit more vertical with their passing game. And if you're able to do that, maybe you can eliminate some of these just three-man pressures from that you'll see probably defensively, and make it much more appetizing to run the ball and be a little bit more consistent offensively from an efficiency standpoint.
They're 9.5-point favorite. Do they win on Saturday?
LSU, yeah, I think they win. I think they're able to do this at home and really make this a very interesting game next week and against Vanderbilt, and then of course Texas A&M in 2 weeks. This is a crucial 3-game stretch. Like I think you have to go 3-0, and I think that South Carolina's the first one on that belt, but this is going to be probably the easiest of the three if I had to put a prediction on it right now.
I would tend to agree with that at this point. This is not a South Carolina team that's played very well at all to this point. He's Glen West, senior writer at Go 24/7. You're looking for team coverage or recruiting coverage, they have got you covered over at Go 24/7. Glenn, thanks, man.
All right. Appreciate it, Hunt.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.